Senator Johnson, you're recognized to speak on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I spoke quite a bit yesterday, and my colleagues have spoken well and passionately. I'd like to read a letter that a large number of faith leaders composed. I think it warrants reading it into the record to all of us. These are from religious leaders who are Baptist, Church of Christ, Jewish, Reformed Jews, Lutherans, Hindus, all came together to write this letter. It says, "Dear members of the Texas Senate and House of Representatives, we are faith leaders from across Texas who value religious freedom for all. We urge you to vote against Senate Bill 10 and House Bill 1009 and any other bill that would require every K-12 public school to display a government-selected version of the 10 Commandments in every classroom. We believe this legislation is a misguided effort that undermines the faith and freedom that we cherish. Both the U.S. and Texas constitutions guarantee our right, and the right of all Texans, to religious freedom. That freedom involves respecting the rights of individuals, parents, and faith communities to make decisions about the teaching of sacred texts that inform our religious understandings and practices. Bills mandating the display of the 10 Commandments demean that freedom. The responsibility for religious education belongs to families, houses of worship, and other religious institutions, not the government. The government oversteps its authority when it dictates an official state-approved version of any religious text. Our faith communities exist to help individuals and families live according to their beliefs. We do not need or want government officials interfering with and usurping this sacred role. Not only do these unconstitutional bills undermine religious freedom by putting the state in a role of religious authority that will coerce public school students into reading a religious text that directs specific religious actions, they also take sides in important religious debates. The legislation requires the use of a specific translation of the 10 Commandments down to individual word choices that are not remotely universal or inclusive of all faith traditions, even among those of us who incorporate or hold sacred the 10 Commandments. Different faith traditions understand and interpret the 10 Commandments differently. In attempting to reconcile and cobble together these varying interpretations, the text of the display mandated by these bills manages to produce a hodgepodge of scripture that includes 12, not 10, commandments and fails to reflect the beliefs of many Christian and Jewish communities. Indeed, the state-dictated version of the 10 Commandments set forth in the Indeed, the state-directed version of the 10 Commandments set forth in these bills does not exist in any translation of the Bible. It is simply not possible to create a version of the 10 Commandments that honors every faith tradition's interpretation, and legislators' attempt to do so is deeply offensive to those of us who do observe the 10 Commandments. We also recognize that the 10 Commandments hold no religious meaning for thousands of Texans. The 10 Commandments are held in a different light for many of the students in our state who are Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, Sikh, Unitarian Universalist, or who practice other religions or no religion at all. It is not the place of government nor public schools to interpret this text for minority religious groups and for those who are not religious, nor to impose these religious instructions on them. Finally, this legislation puts every public school teacher in the unenviable position of explaining to Christian and Jewish students why the scripture displayed in their school does not match the translation that a family has chosen to use in their home. Our public school teachers already carry a great load. They cannot be expected to explain millennia of biblical nuance to their already full plates. We do not need to, and indeed should not, turn public schools into Sunday schools. We remain steadfast and united in affirming the values of religious freedom that are foundational to our democracy, and we will continue to push back against attempts to impose a singular religious viewpoint into our public institutions. We therefore strongly urge you to advocate for and protect the rights of all students by leaving biblical instruction and religious education where it belongs, with our families, churches, and religious institutions. Members, I think you all have a copy of this. It's quite moving to see the list of signatories to this letter. Thank you for allowing me to read this.